The new Boost Mobile network is offering unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for life.
That sounds like a threat.
Then how do you think we should say it?
Unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month for the rest of your life?
I don't know.
Until your ultimate demise.
What if we just say forever?
Okay.
$25 a month, forever.
Get unlimited talk, text, and data for just $25 a month with Boost Mobile forever.
After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
I know what you're thinking. Because right now I'm thinking the same thing. Actually, I've been thinking it ever since I got here. Why, oh why, didn't I take the blue pill?
Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin Lundberg, and I'm looking across the room at Vanessa Mendel.
Hello.
I love doing these in person.
I know, this is so fun. We're just cracking.
We're like smiling ear to ear.
We're just
like
cracking
hard to
up.
talk.
I was like,
Yeah.
are we recording? I don't know. I've been laughing for the last 10 minutes.
Well, you've made me very aware of my podcast voice. I guess I don't have this voice in normal speech.
You really don't, but I think it's great.
Okay.
I think my podcast voice is the same as my normal voice.
You've gotten way more pro in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
You're really like getting your pro Joe voice on.
Loyal listeners, let me know.
Oh my gosh. This episode is such a riot.
So good.
We decided to interview an actor because we really hadn't gotten that perspective. We've done so many producers and filmmakers, and now we're even moving into like the crafts of editing and costume design. But we decided to interview one of the all-time greats, Joey Pantoliano. One of just the good luck charms of Hollywood. Yeah. If you cite a movie that you love, he is probably in it. And he also happens to be one of my mother's dearest friends. They met on the film La Bamba. And so I sort of grew up with Joey Pants in the household, just cutting us up at all times, just taking us down a notch, which was so fun. So we are going to go down memory lane with Joey Pants and hit all the great movies that he's been in. Midnight Run, The Fugitive, Risky Business, The Matrix, Memento. And he tells just the greatest stories,
Amazing. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, let's get going.
Let's do it.
Joey Pants, do you remember the first time we met?
Yes, I was at your house, and you couldn't have been more, than 10 years old?
Yeah. 10, 11.
Yeah, you and Savannah. I guess we were working on La Bamba, your mom and I.
You stormed into our life like a ray of sunshine and never left. And you're still friends with my mom to this day. Whenever you're with her in public, you say, you know, Rosanna DeSoto, she used to be famous.
I say that about myself now, too.
But I love you so much. You've always been like brought such joy into our lives. You're just the most hilarious person I know. And one of my favorite memories is we came to New York in the late 80s and my mom was doing a show with Joe Papp at the Public Theater. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was Christmas. Your aunt was there and we went to see the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And then there was that famous gauche ice cream parlor on 59th Street, the Schmickenbacher or some weird name.
Serendipity?
Serendipity.
Yeah, we went to Serendipity.
Like $80 for an ice cream cone. My favorite thing that Rosanna did, that we all did that night, but was her idea, because it was Christmas holidays. It was a couple of days before Christmas. But Macy's was open until 1:00 in the morning. So we went there at like midnight to go shopping, midnight shopping at Macy's. I don't even know if they do that anymore.
No, I doubt it.
That was so much fun.
Oh, we went ice skating. We did everything. And I just remember feeling like, oh, I hope I have friends like this when I grow up. Because you and mom were always cutting each other up and just like, taking each other down to size. And I just loved it. And I learned a lot about comedy from you. And so, I do this podcast, Joe, and I interview typically, producers and filmmakers. But I was like, I don't really get the perspective from the actor that much. And I think it would be like a really cool thing to sort of go through some of your movies. Cause I interviewed Jen Todd about Memento. And when you got hired onto that, Carrie-Anne Moss said, he's a good luck charm. Hire Joe onto this movie. He's a good luck charm. And like the movies you choose to do inevitably become like tremendous successes. It's kind of amazing.
About 7% of them. No, I mean, guys, that's the God's honest truth. Everybody goes, oh my God, Joey Pants is the Midas touch. But if you look at my resume, I've done over 170 movies.
Unbelievable.
And I think there's about 7 or 8 that, there's a difference between successful movies that make money. And then there are the movies that, now at my age, I'm understanding that there are films that I've done that, like, for example, Bound. It's on the Criterion Channel. I think I have 4 movies that are in the National Register in Washington, D.C. So that's been cool. And, I've also produced, I think I produced 12 movies. But you and I, when you were just out of college, we were shopping a script, I remember. I think it was David's script. So we were producing partners. We were
producing partners for.
We remember we went and we went and pitched. We had lunch with
yes, Tudor Jones, Paul Tudor Jones. We got brought out to Paul Tudor Jones, and we had lunch with him. Joe, the rooms you put me in, man, it was way before I could handle that stuff, which is so hilarious.
Ignorance is bliss, though. Yeah, ignorance is. That's the thing is like the more you know, the more fearful you become. So it's better just to throw caution. I do that all the time. I walk into rooms that are important, that that have an important. If I'm hired, there's going to be an important outcome. It's a great part, and I try to level the playing field, but just thinking that they're all from Hoboken.
Okay, so Joe, we're gonna sort of go down memory lane here. And I want to ask about your impressions and your memories. And we're going to start with Risky Business, which was like kind of Guido the Killer Pimp was sort of, I'm going to say, the thing that really launched you, at least, from what I've read and from what I've seen. And so I want you to tell me about that movie and getting that gig and just talk me through like your memories. And
it was a very unusual time for me because I just starting, I think, making a living. I came out in 1977, and I think in 78, I got this really coveted role of Angela Maggio in the miniseries remake of From Here to Eternity. So I got to play the Frank Sinatra part that resurrected his career. And I was I was working with Natalie Wood and Kim Basinger and Steve Railsback and Billy Devane. And it was a big deal to get that job. And Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner adopted me. My first influx to old Hollywood, and I met so many extraordinary people through them. And then I was waiting tables again. I literally had to borrow, I think, $10,000 from RJ to pay my back taxes because I had never made money. I started in 1971. So in the first 7 years in studying and training and working, off Broadway or off Broadway, what they call equity waiver. You work for nothing and you're allowed to do 12 performances.
Yeah.
But in that first 7 years, I made $1,000 as an actor, and then we moved to Los Angeles, and I started, and waiting tables was always my go-to job because I could put in 3 hours and make $40. And in those days, it was, my rent in Los Angeles, my first apartment was $180 a month, and I was splitting that with my girlfriend.
And you were like a really charming waiter, I have a feeling. Like people liked you.
Well, that really helped my acting. My networking, kids are always asking me about, how do I get into show business? And I always tell them, look, acting, great actors are a dime a dozen. It's the 5 minutes in that room because people want everybody that walk into that room. They want you to be the guy or the gal. They one less thing to worry about, but they also want an unconscious even, or maybe conscious understanding that this player, this performer is going to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem.
Yes.
And so I got cast in a movie called Eddie and the Cruisers.
Oh, sure.
And Nancy Clapper was the casting director, and Bobby Gersh was my agent. And while I was there, my mother died. I was at the beginning or in the middle of a divorce.
Wow.
I had an 18-month-old son. It was a mess. I was a mess. All due respect to everybody that I caused emotional harm to, because I was self-destructing. And I didn't get along with this director on that show, Eddie the Cruisers.
Why not, Joe? Like, what was the deal with that? Like, you get along with a lot of people.
I didn't like him. He didn't like me. I didn't like the way he treated people. I didn't like his ability, the way he worked. He saw people had to work the way he wanted them to work, and I didn't like the way he treated one particular actor. I thought he was incredibly mean, and it was an unhappy situation. And I take full credit for my part of it.
Yeah.
But I was on a drop in a pickup, so I went back to Los Angeles. And I get a call that they're doing this movie. And they were doing like Fast Time at Ridgemont High. They were doing all these kid high school movies at that time.
Sex comedies. Yeah, totally.
And I was like, yeah, okay. And they want you to come in and read for it. I said, it's the gangster part. I mean, I've done that. Yeah, go in. So I went in and I read. And then I guess a few days or 5 days or 10 days, Bobby Gersh says, listen, they want you to go back again. Go back again. Are they crazy? I said, no, tell him it's a pass. Tell him, offer it to me or move on.
Were you at a point in your career where you could kind of say that? Like, were you still struggling to make rent?
I was still struggling. Oh yeah, I was still struggling.
Okay.
But I just was like, there's nothing left to show them. And also, I was really good in that last one. I don't want to go back and shit on the floor. The closer you get to it, like, oh my God, this kid was so good when he came in last time. And then it's like, what the fuck happened? Yeah. So, I was just like, hedging and saying, listen, leave them with a smile on their face. So, but Bobby said, nah, you got to go. Now go back. Just go back. Come on, go back. So I went back. So I read again with Paul Brickman. It was Brickman and Nancy. And after the reading, Nancy Clapper says, okay, Paul, you leave. Joey, you stay. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? And she said, okay, let me bring you up to date. We were going to offer you the part last week, but they called this guy, the director, and he said you're difficult to work with and you can't remember your lines. And so I know that you haven't been getting along, so we want to know your side of the story.
From the Eddie and the Cruisers guy, they had called him, that director, and gotten this report on you.
Yeah, because I guess one of the producers was friends. Not I guess, I know.
Oh my God.
One of the producers was good friends and was like, put the kibosh on me. This was the money guy. They went to high school together. They grew up together. So we want to know your side, sir. I said, okay, I'm not going to do this. That's my resume. You call up those directors and producers. You ask them if I'm difficult to work with and can't remember my lines. And if they say I am, I would suggest you don't hire me. And so I get the job.
Oh my God, Joe.
So now I got to go back to work. I got to finish up the job on Eddie and the Cruisers. And Bobby says, look, you won. Don't start anything. Don't say anything. I know how you can get. And I'm like, oh, okay, I won't. And then I get there and it's all night shooting because this guy couldn't turn the company around. So we wound up having to do day work at night because it would cost too much money to turn the company around. So I see the guy and it just came out of me. It was a spontaneous moment. I said, hey, listen, I don't know what you said to those guys, but thank you so much. And I'm like shaking his hand. Thank you so much. I got the job. And I could just see the glaze go over the guy's eyes. And he goes, oh, you're welcome.
Joe, I love it. I love it so much. You couldn't help. You couldn't help.
Yeah, that's a great story. I couldn't help myself.
So you finish Eddie and the Cruisers. You go on to Risky Business. Did you know Paul Brickman was like kind of a genius? Like, did you know that it was going to be more elevated than like the standard sort of teens, like sex movies that were going on?
I thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be exactly one of a dozen. I had no idea. I mean, the production, it was like Steve Tisch and John Avnet, and Avnet was doing second unit. He went on to become a director as well. And Brickman was charming and almost like, I had made a choice with a walk and talk with Tom Cruise where I'm saying, I think you're a nice kid, so I'm going to tell you something that I know you'll understand. And I tell him that in a sluggish economy, never fuck with another man's livelihood. And one of the takes, I had a toothpick in my mouth. And so when I said that, I put my arm around him, like he was my best friend. But then I put the toothpick up to his neck and said the line. And Brickman said, "That's a great idea, but you can't do it because I want everybody in this movie to be liked."
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. That's a great way to, because as you know, when actors find a moment, something that they think is brilliant, it's really hard to get them to stop doing it. But he told me in a way that really was like, yep, got it. 86 the toothpick.
That is genius. That is genius because, Guido is the villain. You are the villain, and yet you're so charming and funny, and ultimately you let him get away with it. It's a cat and mouse, but ultimately you drive away and you let the kid redeem himself. And so you are kind of a beloved character. What were your impressions of Tom? I mean, this was very early Tom Cruise.
Listen, this was a low budget movie. I think in those dollars, I think they made that movie for $3 million. So we were all in honey wagons, across the board, honey wagons. And, Bronson Pinchot, Curtis Armstrong, Raphael, all of these amazing actors.
Great cast.
It was a good time. And Tom was a great kid. I mean, it's like I was a big runner in those days. And so was he. And we would jog in the morning. And I remember that he was telling me that he was a wrestler in high school and he had a terrible injury that he couldn't compete anymore. So he said, I guess I'll become an actor. But the one thing I did remember, and this has happened 2 times in my life's journey, where he said to me, I'm going to be a big star. And I was like, yeah, okay. And another kid said that on a movie in his beginning on Empire of the Sun. Ben Stiller said, I'm going to be a big star. And I'm like, yeah, I know another guy who's going to be a big star. And they were right.
Oh my God.
They saw it and it was very important to them. And that, and they were lucky enough to happen.
Did you see that sort of diligence in Eye of the Tiger from the get-go? Was it show up Johnny on the spot, know your lines, be the first to set kind of thing? I think that, yes, he was incredibly prepared, but he wasn't isolated. Some actors will just shut down and they're in a bubble like the gymnasts do. He wasn't that way. He had a great sense of humor. I got to know him, and over the years met his family, his mom, his sister. He's always been incredibly, just a great guy. I'm very proud of him.
In a sluggish economy, never ever fuck with another man's livelihood. Now, if you're smart, like I hope you are, you're not gonna make me come back here.
Hey, Ryan, that was a fast trip. It was like you teleported.
Yeah, just got in. I'll get all my expenses logged, I promise.
Oh, no, you're okay. SAP Concur uses advanced AI, so your expense report will practically write itself. Quite the breakthrough. It's like we've been teleported into the future.
All right.
So, just curious, would you give us written permission to convert your matter into energy patterns and reassemble you at, say, random travel destinations?
Margaret, are you building a teleporter?
No. Yes.
SAP Concur helps your business move forward faster. Learn more at concur.com.
Hey, kid, I want you to spill your guts. Tell us everything. Everything.
Everything. Okay, I'll talk.
I want to talk about The Goonies next, Joe, because that was another one that you said was actually such a delight. to make. There's so many great actors on that. So many kids. Like, what are your memories of that?
Extraordinary, fun, crazy fun. I do From Here to Eternity. I get a phone call from my friend Annie DeSalvo. She says, I was just at Treat Williams' house last night, and a whole bunch of guys there. We watched From Here to Eternity, and Steven Spielberg was there. And he goes, this guy, who, does anybody know who this guy is?
No.
And Annie says, yeah, I know Joey Pants. And she said, he thinks you're terrific. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't believe her. I said, stop breaking, if you're full of shit. I didn't believe her. So my friend, and this was 1978, where it was a whole exodus of New York theater actors coming to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And they were staying at my house. My friends that were coming in, they would stay at my house for 2 or 3 weeks and get an apartment.
Okay.
So I still had my parking pass at Burbank Studios, which is Warner Brothers again. But at that time, all of the studios in the 70s had combined they're falling on hard times, and they called it the Burbank Studios. And Columbia was there, and so I had my parking pass for Here to Eternity, so I could drive onto the lot. It hadn't expired, so I took my friend Jeff. I said, "Come on, we'll go to the commissary. It's really cool, and I'll walk around and show you the back lot." So we're having lunch. We have the trays, and they're shooting 1942. Or 1941, that's what it was called, Steven Spielberg. And I go, holy shit, Jeff, that's Steven Spielberg. That guy, the guy over there, that's Spielberg. And Annie DeSalvo said that he thought I was great and loves my work. And should I say hello? And he goes, yeah, but no. But what if she's bullshitting you? I said, yeah, you're right. So he finishes lunch, and where we are is where you put the dirty trays. And so he puts his tray away, and he walks in. He says, Joe Pantoliano, I'm Steven Spielberg. I know. How do you do? He says, I thought, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, Annie DeSalvo said so, and I didn't believe her. And he goes, listen, I'd love to work with you. You want to have lunch? Why don't you come to the stage? Here's my assistant's number. And so I go the next week to have lunch with Steven Spielberg.
Stop.
In his trailer, on stage 16, which is the largest stage. That's where we shot the pirate stuff, the water sequences on the Goonies. And he introduced me to John Belushi and all of the, he was just wonderful. And he said, and I quote, he goes, look, the next film I'm doing is a kid's movie. There's really nothing in it for you, but we're going to work together. And that was that. And then, a couple of years go by, and I am now being managed by the great Pat McQueenie, who had Harrison Ford and Candy Clark and Mackenzie. Oh, she had all of the kids, all of the actors from American Graffiti. Because Fred Roos, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
And Gary Marshall had a management company. They actually managed actors, but when they became producers, they sold the company to Pat. And that's how she
inherited
got it.
all those young actors.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she took me on. So there's this, meeting. I thought it was an audition, but it was just personality. Putting two people in front of a camera and seeing them talk. And for this Richard Donner, Steven Spielberg producing movie, and I was like, oh wow, Pat. I had lunch with him, and he likes me, and he said, you think he remember? And she said, he doesn't forget anything. Oh yeah, he knows you're coming in for it. Oh yeah. So I get the job, right?
Yeah.
And we go to Oregon, and the production office was underneath in the motel we were staying at, was underneath where my room was, and I could see Kathy Kennedy and Frank Marshall and Steven and the DP that because he was coming in to pick up to start second unit directing. Because we had a drop dead date,
right,
of a release, and so he was shooting a lot of the Fratelli stuff.
No,
Dick was concentrating on the kids stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, he had like 70 days. Dick had like 80 days of first, and he had 70 days of second. Frank Marshall had 15 days of third unit. ILM.
No way. On the Goonies?
I've never been on. It was a factory production, so. I go in because I know he's downstairs. I'm like going in like pretending I need something, and Dick is there greeting them, and he goes, Joey, do you know Steven Spielberg? And I go shake his hand. He goes, yes, we do. And Spielberg looked at me and he said, I kept my promise, didn't I?
Oh my God. Those are the moments, Joe.
And he's been great to me. I mean, then he cast me in Empire of the Sun. I did an episode of Amazing Stories. And then he had a series I did with Charlie Sheen that he put me on. And, he's an extraordinary individual. He's never lost his ferocious desire and innocence for show business. I'll give you an example. We're shooting in front of a live audience on this half-hour sitcom, right? And I hear Joey, and I'm not in the scene that we just shot. Now we're moving to the next setup, the next stage. It's live, 3 cameras, 4 cameras. And he goes, I just saw The Matrix. And he starts grilling. He says, tell me about The Matrix. What was that experience like? Tell me about these directors. And we have a long 20-minute conversation, and we're holding up production.
No, stop.
He's holding up production. They're ready to go. And he's going, and they're like, and nobody's going to tell Steven Spielberg, Steven.
Wrap it up.
So that what I learned from that collaboration of Donner and Spielberg is that when Steven would see a sequence that, Michael Kahn, his editor, they would say, okay, we're going to need a close up on this, or we're going to need a 2-shot of that. Or I think I have a better idea. Let's reshoot it.
Oh,
like I'll give you an example.
Okay.
There's the sequence when we're in the caves and Keyquan puts the grease from his shoes, his sneakers, on the pole that we're crossing the waterfall, and I slip and fall, and then my brother does, but and Mama says, "Are you okay?" And in a very high voice, Francis says, "No." Well, Steven says, "Listen, I think I can make I want to reshoot that sequence," and he goes to the coordinator, the stunt coordinator. He goes, I'm going to need somebody that doubles Joey, and I'm going to need them to do a 360-degree backflip up in the air and land on his balls. And, stuntmen always like, you got it, right? Stuntman break his leg, right? Are you okay? Fine. No. Yep. Everything's good. Right. And so in the next couple of days, they find this gymnast, this kid that's at UCLA, second-year gymnast, and he starts practicing. And for a week, he's working it up with the team, and they're teaching him, backflips, and then they start padding his balls, and we get to the day where we got 3 or 4 cameras, and on 1, 2, 3, he's using his leg, and he goes up in the air, comes down, lands on his balls, boom. The whole scene is played out sotto voce with the doubles, with the stunt doubles. And Steven says, print it. And that was it. He did it.
Oh
and this kid started doubling me because he looked so much like me. Spiro Rosatos.
No way. Like in future movies.
Never went back to California.
No.
Yeah, but now Spiro is the go-to. He does all the Fast and the Furious. He's the go-to coordinator.
No.
He designed Bad Boys 3. I don't know if they were able to get him to do Bad Boys, but he's the stunt coordinator in car chases. That's Spiro Rosatos.
Because they pulled him from UCLA as a gymnast. Oh.
Probably he was going to be a dentist or something.
Oh my God, Joe. So I love that. I love that curiosity and creativity that Spielberg obviously continues to have and bring to the table. Was there anything about Empire of the Sun? I mean, that just struck me as like a very, very difficult, long, hot shoot. Was that also kind of a delight, Joe?
Oh, yeah. And it was also, we got to go all over the world. I mean, I was 5 weeks in China. We were in China first, and then like 5 weeks in London, and then 2 months in Spain.
Because you had to do all that traveling. You had to do all that walking, right?
The China part was the China exteriors, the Bund and what it looked like in 1939. The mansions, all that mansion stuff, they don't exist in China anymore. So we shot that in London.
But Joe, were you on for that part? Like, were you just on for a run of show?
Yeah, they bought me They bought me for 16 weeks. I mean, now, I had weeks where I didn't work. So it was like, I should have written a book, seeing Europe on $2,500 a week per diem. It was like, and traveling around and when, as long as they knew where you were, you get permission and you could go, I'm going to Paris. Can I go to Paris for 5 days? You got it.
Oh my God.
It was great. It was absolutely great. And getting to work with all those British actors and getting to know them. That was my first, Miranda Richardson and Nigel Havers and Leslie Phillips.
Yes.
Wonderful people. Wonderful.
And little Christian Bale, like young Christian Bale.
Little Christian. Did you come to? Oh, you missed my wedding. That's right. Your mom came a day late.
My mom came a day late, and you called her and asked her for $150 for the meal.
Yeah, for the 3 seats. I gave her a break. I was actually paying $66 each a plate. But Christian and David and Louise, his sister, they all came to our wedding.
Is that right?
On time. They came the right day.
Oh my God, Joe, that's so good.
Until then, you are Mike Lowry. You be him. That's what you are. You're him. Yeah, you're him. I don't want to hear it. You're him. And you are you. You be you, but not in front of her. You're him. You're you.
I will say this of you, Joe. It's like, I think that a lot of guarded people in this business take down their guard around you because you are so disarming and sort of, you just don't take life so seriously. And so you do, whenever you're around, and like Jen Todd was saying this on Memento, you create like a vibe that's just more inherently relaxed. And so I bet you've like observed things from actors and filmmakers that maybe other people haven't, because you do like lend this sort of levity. So that's why I'm like so intrigued to hear your perspective on things.
A lot of that I got from the environment I grew up in and my mother. Mm-hmm. The ability, we were dirt poor, on welfare, living in low housing projects. And so the environment, our natural environment in the projects was multicultural. It was, closest to the military you could ever be. So it was, African-American, was Puerto Rican, Italian, Irish. We all lived in the same building. And so the one singular thing we had in common is we were all broke. So character had the only value, that if Daniela needed to borrow 50 cents from me and paid it back, I knew that she would stand up and that I could trust her. So it was like the barter system. I'll give you this and you give me that. We did a lot of bartering growing up, and so the same thing when I got into the business, it was like. My mom worked for the local politicians because it was like you put in the time, and if they get elected, your uncle could become the dog catcher. Literally, my uncle Popeye was a dog catcher. He was the town drunk and the dog catcher. And so I applied that because I actually taught a class called Show Business 101. Nobody teaches the creative art of networking. Lobbying, an actor's lobbying, everybody lobbies. We're in sales. That's what we do. We are sellers. We sell things. And Sue Patrigola, my dear friend, publicist, when I had a career, she was my publicist. And, but she once said to me that I never forgot. She goes, you're in the rat shit business and we're all selling rat shit and it's the same price. So you can buy Joey Pants's rat shit for $10 or you can buy Stanley Tucci's rat shit for $10. And why are they buying your rat shit? Because they got a relationship with you. Because they know that you're gonna deliver the rat shit on time and it's gonna be good rat shit. And that's how I apply it. Like, be nice. It doesn't cost you anything. The assistants, the PAs, those are the people that I worked and cultivated relationships with because I knew that they did 90% of the work.
Gosh, I mean, like pearls of wisdom, people. These are like genius pearls. And I absolutely agree. I think like, Joe, even like coming back in the latest Bad Boys, there was probably a great affection for you on that set over the years. And now you're like in one of the big hits of the summer. And that probably didn't need to be the case.
I actually think they got slapped around pretty good in the testing. I think, when they tested it, the audience was really pissed that they killed me off. You know how the scorecards. And but it was good for the movie. It was good for the movie and the plot. So, but it was all Will. I mean, I got a call 9 months prior. I think it was Doug Belgrade. And he said, look, Will says the captain's got to be in the movie. And we've come up with an idea things can change, they always change, but it's looking good. Right.
Oh
and so they finally get in the offer. Right. This is a great story. So Sony Business Affairs calls, but we were going to offer, and they offer some money. And I'm like, what? And I said, well, I want to read the script. And they said, well, they don't want you to read the script. I said, well, if they want me to read the script, it's probably like, a great part. So, I got to read the script. I'm not going to negotiate on the blind. In the meantime, tell them I want $1 million. Barry McPherson, my agent, he said, the business affairs guy says he's insulted. They're insulted that you would ask for $1 million. And I said, well, it's not that far off what I got on the last one. I should get a raise, right?
Yeah.
Because on the last one, I insisted on a death tax. I actually told them that I would do it for this much money if you don't kill me. And I wanted this much money if you did kill me.
And did you get it? Did you get it, Joe?
Yeah, they gave me a raise.
Oh my God.
My death tax. That's what I called it. But then I read the script and I said, oh, no wonder they're insulted. So I said, okay, we settled on a price not close to that number, but as a character actor, that's my dream as a character actor, to make $1 million on a picture.
Okay. The next one, because you told me a couple of stories about this one historically. I want to talk about The Fugitive, because I know that was one that, Tommy Lee Jones is not known as the warmest of, he's a tough cookie, but he really liked you. And you really cut him up.
Yeah. And I really, listen, I think he gets a bad rap. I think, he was incredibly generous to the marshals, to the group, our group. And, Tommy doesn't suffer fools well. I take my hat off to him. There's so many great stories about The Fugitive. I think the best story is actually in my second book, Asylum. So Andy Davis was a friend of mine. I did his first feature. It was a low budget horror movie they made for $1 million that Joe and Donna Ross produced. Donna Arkoff now again. So it was like Rachel Ward and Daryl Hannah and Joey Pants, Mark Metcalf, all of these.
Sure, I'm getting like a sense of the time.
Andy was the DP. He was the director because he was a DP.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's how he got his start working. He was a camera operator and a assistant focus puller for Haskell Wexler. That's how he got his start in Chicago. So anyway, I'm in that movie. So now I get a call and he says, "Listen, I just got this movie greenlit with Harrison Ford." And, there are these marshals. You remember Gerard, the TV show. And but he's going to have all these marshals. But, it's the whole script desires the first page rewrite. And we actually shot that whole movie in continuity because we didn't know how it was going to end. We literally had to go back. Oh, yeah, they shot the whole thing page by page. So he said, so I want somebody who's going to be a foil, comics foil for Tommy Lee. And so I need you to go out to Chicago and meet him. And so I went out to Chicago. So this was he had to sign off on me. Tommy had, okay, yes or no.
You'd never met him.
I had never met him. So I get a call. I got supposed to meet him at 7:00 that night, but I got in around 2, 3 in the afternoon, and the hotel phone rings and he goes, "Joe Pantoliano, this is Tommy Lee." I said, "Yeah, hey." He goes, "Yeah, we're supposed to meet." I said, "Yeah." He says, "You doing anything now?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, come on over," because we're in the same hotel.
Okay.
So I go in there and he's got the TV. I'll never forget this. He had the TV on, but no sound. I don't remember what he was watching, but then he had music on, like country music, listen to music. And he said, "You want a beer?" I said, "Sure." And he goes, "So, what do you think of the script?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck. This is it." So I was like, do I tell him the truth or do I bullshit him? And so I just said it. It just came out. I said, "So do you want the truth? You want me to bullshit you?" And he just smiled and he said, "Well, yeah, shit, you might as well give me the truth." And I said, "Yeah, it's a mess. It's, I can't understand it. I can't follow it. And these characters are cardboard cutouts. They don't even have first names." And he said, "Absolutely." And then he started planning. He's like, we started planning. He brought me into the movie. He brought me into the process. And we had a production meeting. We were in Cherokee, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Which is a big tourist place. That's where we shot the train wreck. And so we were having like rehearsals. And Tommy Lee said, "Listen, Andy, these guys are all in fucking trench coats, like cardboard cutouts. And, I want to have first name. I don't want to just be Gerard. I want to have first name." So Andy said, as I remember it, he said, my grandfather's name was Samuel. Can he be, how's about Samuel Gerard? Tommy said, "Okay." And then I said, "Hey, my grandfather's name was Cosmo." Yeah. So they said, "Okay, Cosmo Renfro." And that's how we was,
No way.
I think everybody, just named themselves after their grandfathers. I know that Tommy and I did.
That is
Andy
so cool, Joe. So you're really part of like rebuilding that.
Oh yeah, and Jeb Stewart, the writer, he was there all the time, writing stuff, rewriting stuff, and very accessible. You had an idea, you could throw it out. They didn't know who the bad guy was. Was it the one-armed man? Was it Richard Kimball? I mean, there were times it was going to be Richard Kimball.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's why they shot in continuity.
Joe, I mean, I have to just say The Fugitive is one of the most perfectly constructed movies ever. I showed it to my kids last year, and it is just, it is a masterwork of action and thrills and near misses and rat-a-tat-tat dialogue. I cannot believe that you guys were writing as you went.
Well, we were improvising too. I mean, there were times where Andy would say, "I don't need this scene. I already have this scene. I want a scene that's going to deal with this." And so we would just start fucking around even before he lit the master. He said, "Let's just, we'd come up with something," and he would say, "Okay, yeah, this is the master." And then they'd light it. And then we would improvise, around that theme. We would throw out what he didn't like and we would keep what he did. And then so finally he would say, "This is the scene. This is what we're matching to." And that's when Drew Ann, the script supervisor, would actually start taking the video playback and writing down. And, she would say, "You say this and you scratch your ass," because you got to match the behavior that's happening too.
Yes.
So Andy included me and I made sure that I was Velcroed to Tommy Lee Jones. If I was next to Tommy Lee Jones, I was in the fucking movie. And that pissed off a lot of my other
cohorts.
marshals. Yeah. But I even they don't even know this. I gave the sound guy, the guy that puts the lavaliers on you. Yeah. I gave him $100, and I said, "Make sure you take care of me," because there was only they had the 2 lavaliers for the principals, and I made sure to get the 3rd one. So one. And Arnold Copelson, by the way, was just Peter McGregor, Scott. These producers were phenomenal.
Oh my God.
And so I get invited into Andy's trailer for this meeting with Harrison, Tommy Lee Jones, Arnold, PMS, the stunt coordinator, okay. And they've got this sequence where, okay, we wind up in the laundry room, and the bad guy. We know who the bad guy is now. And so the bad guy knocks you out, Tommy, with a beam. And then you wake up and get his gun, and that's how you're going to save Richard Kimball. And Tommy said, "You're going to hit me in the head with the beam, and I'm going to shake it off and save the day? That's bullshit." And he walked out. And he literally walked out. And Harrison looks at Andy, he said, "You can't argue with logic. You can't argue with it." And so he walks out. Now everybody's walking out. And I hang back. And I go to Andy. I go, "Andy, hit me in the head with the beam." And he goes, huh? I said, he says, Cosmo, you come with me. You go that way. The bad guy hits me in the head with a beam. The bad guy gets my gun. Tommy Lee Jones saves the day. So, you would go to work and the sides would be there and that's only then would you know what you were doing that day. So I'm like, oh, I'm in the laundry room. Great. Another scene. And then it says that he kills me, that the beam kills me. And I'm like, the fuck? So I go running into Andy's trailer. Andy, you can't kill me. What? They're going to kill me with the beam? He goes, no. What if there's a sequel? You can't fucking kill me. He goes, all right, we won't kill you. So we were shooting this at the Hilton Towers, right? The Hilton Hotel, the big one over the park.
Yeah.
And so it's 4 a.m. and I'm on the ground. This is the old days when they used movie cameras and film, right? So I'm thinking, well, if I'm out cold, they can keep me dead. They could just make it, I'm dead.
Right.
So I got to be like going, because the gun, it's like the hand's going to come in and get the gun.
Yeah.
And so I go, so I'm doing, and okay, print it, set up, one more time. Let's do it again. And I see I'm on the ground and I see these jeans walk up. I just see the guy's legs. And then I look up, it's like you pan up and there's Harrison Ford looking down at me at 5 a.m. and he's shaking his head. And I go, what? He goes, you should be dead. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it was his idea. All right. So I said, why? He said, because it's great. You get the audience sympathy. They love you. You don't have to be in the aftermath scene. I said, no. I said, what if there's a sequel? And he smiled like, you poor kid. You really don't know the business, do you? He says, there's not going to be a sequel because I won't do this piece of shit again. and I looked at him and I said, yeah, well, fuck you. We just chased some other $15 million assholes through the woods. And he started laughing and then.
Wait, Joe, you really said that to him? You said that to him?
Yeah. I love Harrison Ford. I got to tell you. So Pat McQueenie, we had the same manager, right? And so Harrison, I get a call. I'm in New York, and he's got The Devil's Own, a movie he did with Brad Pitt coming out. And Pat says, "Listen, Harrison knows you're in town, and he wants you to come to the premiere. It's in New York, and the after party." Oh, okay, thanks. And it was at that old Four Seasons restaurant that was very famous. They had a lot of parties there. And you had this big ballroom and you went down these stairs and I'm going into a sea of 400 people. And in the 400 people, I see Harrison Ford jumping up out of the crowd, just seeing his head. Joey Pants, right?
No.
So I'm walking toward him through the people. He's walking toward me through the people. And he takes me by the shoulders, right? And he goes, so, are you going to do that piece of shit? And I said, yes. And he started laughing. And he said, good thing you didn't listen to me.
Oh, my God, Joe. What a perfect end to that story. You cannot make that stuff up. That is so brilliant. Oh, I love that so much. That's so good. So it sounds like that was like kind of a magical experience, despite the sort of indecision and chaos.
No, we literally thought, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I think a lot of people thought that it was going to be the biggest piece of shit.
Oh my.
All of us. I got invited to a test screening.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do this. I'm not going. You go, Nancy. And then when Nancy came home and I said, what? And she said, it's really good. It's really good. And so I called Tommy Lee. I said, what's this I hear? He goes, Joey, I can't figure it out. Because Tommy Lee, when we were leaving Cherokee, we were in the car and we were driving to the charter flight for the crew and the cast to go to Chicago.
Yeah.
And where he goes, Joey, you like sushi? Yeah, I like sushi. It's good. We're going to eat a lot of sushi. He says, you like Italian? Yeah. You like wine? Oh, yeah, big wine. We're going to drink a lot of wine, eat a lot of sushi, because let's face it, nobody's going to win an Academy Award on this one.
And then he went on to win the Academy Award. Unbelievable.
Yep.
What happened? Where'd he go?
I did a Peter Pan right here off of this stamp, right here.
What?
Yeah, boom.
Holy shit. All right, can we go home now?
What do you think? I'm gonna try to stiff you?
You? Never. He would never try and stiff me.
Do I detect some kind of sarcasm here?
Never.
Where
never.
do where have I inherited this reputation?
You got to tell me about my personal favorite, Rich's Midnight Run.
Okay, Marty Brest. I knew Marty Brest from NYU. When I was a kid, 1972, 73, the only opportunity you had to work in film was, going to the film schools because they always needed actors on auditioning. And so I would audition for these guys, these students, Marty Brest, Ang Lee, all of these.
Stop. These like young kids, these young NYU kids.
Young kids. Yeah, second year kids. They're making their dissertation, which like 35-minute film.
Mm-hmm.
And Gerald Saldo. There was a lot of guys that I knew through that experience. Bruce Postman, NYU filmmakers, and we had the same agent. Harry Upland represented. He had this boutique agency, but De Niro and Costa Gavas, Louis. It was like a great list. He had a great list. Scorsese, and so I got on. I was a client. Luckily enough, I got to be a client. And so they, Marty Brest wants to talk to you. So he said, he says, Joey, I'm sending you a script. There's two guys, the two gangsters that are chasing them, and you can play either part. Just tell me which part you like if you want to do it.
Okay.
So I call him back. I said, okay, look, I don't want to do it. I don't like those guys. I've done that. But what do you want to do? I don't see anything else. I want to play the accountant. He said, well, fuck that. You're not playing the accountant. Fuck you. You kidding me?
You wanted the grown role.
Yeah. You want to play the great parts.
Sure.
Every actor wants to, movie stars only born out of the great parts that they play.
Yes.
If I played, Tom Cruise's part, Risky Business, you'd be interviewing him about me now. You'd be telling him what a great Guido he made. So I said, well, the bail bondsman's got some meat on the bones. I could do something with that. Because no. He said, I already got somebody I like, the 300-pound guy. I said, no. He says, look, if you want that part, you got to earn it. You got to come in the room and audition for it.
Oh.
So I said, oh, happy to. So I went in, and you're always thinking like, what can I do in these 4 minutes that's going to be different than what everybody else does?
Yeah.
So this was a great acting lesson for me. So, I thought, well, what the guy is saying, he's not going to show his hand. So I'm going to treat him like he's my best friend. And he's asking me for money. And I'm reading, with De Niro, and he's got the script in his hand.
Oh, you're reading
with De Niro. The lines. And
yeah,
which was terrible. It's a horrible thing to do because, he's reading with you, but he's also giving you grades, assessing you, right? So at one point, and this happens spontaneously, he asked me, he says, where's my money? Because I owe him money, right? And I took his hand and I clasped it and I put it to my heart. And I went like I was petting him. I'm going, Jack, what's the matter? Jack, you're going to get your money, right? And all of a sudden I could see De Niro's eyes go like this, like. And so it's the first time I ever got a call on the day. The agent called and said, okay, I got good news, I got bad news. The good news, you got the part. The bad news, the movie just went into turnaround at Paramount. And by the next morning, it was at Universal.
No way.
Because Marty wanted Robin Williams and the studio wanted Cher. They wanted to make it a love romance.
Oh.
So here's the lesson that I learned.
Okay.
I went in. Now they're doing the Geisler, my assistant, Jerry Geisler, the guy that's on the phone. And all of these actors, really good actors, really wonderful actors, like admirable careers, went on to do great things. But they're reading with me and Bob De Niro. And a majority of them, a lot of them, like they're coming in and they're shitting on the floor and they got, they just feel like they got to tell Bob De Niro how great he is and what he's done. And it's like, boom, boom.
Right.
So now they take a break. And I'm with Michael Chinich, who cast it, right? Executive producer, a lot, Ghostbusters. I mean,
sure.
I used to work for Don Phillips and Michael Chinich when they were doing extra casting in New York. That's how I know him. That's how far back we went. And he says to me, Joey, this is where you get the fucking job. In this fucking room. And with these 4 minutes.
Yes.
Once you got the job, that's where you're having the fun. And to come in here without your fucking game face on and to tell some actor what his work is meant to them, he's like, I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I never did that. I just, for some reason, I had the instincts or an acting teacher, go in as the character. I used to go in the, dressed like I thought. And that when I came back, I always wore the same clothes.
Because something you did was working. So just keep trying to build on that.
Yeah. And, it's like, I don't know how, I could never be an actor in today's world. I could never audition for something where I hadn't read the script. I have to read the script.
Yeah.
I probably had one audition or two auditions the last 10 years. But the idea of going in there with an idea, and in my day, you had your producers and you had the director, and sometimes the actor was there and you're reading with the casting director. But then the director would say, okay, let's try it again and try it this way, or try it that way, or try it this way, or try it that way. You don't get any feedback. You do
totally.
You put it on your iPhone, you plug it in, and as a producer, I produced a couple of TV series and movies where at that point we were actually seeing tape, and I would watch directors hit the button 3 seconds into it, going past that audition to the next audition. So he's determined in the first 3 seconds that that's not for him.
I experience this a lot with my casting agents where they won't give the script out because it's like some sort of secret. And I'm like, I grew up with my mother who's like, I'm getting one scene. I have no idea what the context is here. And the argument on the other side, I guess, is like, I just want to see what they do with these two scenes. And I'm like, give the actors the tools they need to really like execute on a character and a notion. And so I'm so with you that I'm like, don't hide the script. I mean, unless there's some big reason and you're trying to hide the Marvel movie.
I've had a situation where they say, you got to come to the office and read it. You can't take it out. That's okay. But I learned a lot from the anxiety that having to go into a room. I was able to learn how to deal with that nervousness. So you get cast in a job and you meet the director on the day. The director has the ability to get a sense of who this person is. A little small talk here and there. Look, Chris Nolan, when we did Memento, he had this little square video playback, and he would be next to the camera. He'd be watching you, and he'd be watching, like that. And I recently talked to Tony Goldwyn, who did Oppenheimer, and said that he still uses the same thing. His process is working on Memento, which we haven't talked about yet. That was an amazing experience because we had so little time. But on the weekends, Emma and Chris and Guy Pearce and they would come to my house in Santa Monica, and my garage was a little office, and we would go through the whole week's work.
Wow.
We would talk about it. We would, I would Americanize. I say, it sounds a little British. Make it. But what if he said this? And then that, and so we knew what the setup was going to be. We a lot of times now filmmakers, you show up, the lighting's already there. They say you're sitting here, you're walking here. It's like my whole experience at filmmaking has been the actors have the set with the director. They work it out, and then when they got a rough idea, they bring the crew in to show them what it's going to look like, and then they light it.
So, Joe, when like Nolan is watching your live performance and has his clamshell, do you feel nervous or emboldened by that? Do you like that? Do you like them being a little bit further away?
It.
You like it. You like
it. That's your audience. Because camera guys they're not like laugh or smile. My favorite thing in the whole world is when a camera guy is suppressing a laugh because they don't want to ruin the shot.
The best.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best.
I love you so much for coming on and like sharing all these pearls of wisdom and your humor and your grace and your talent.
I look forward to working for you. You know, you could take your love and shove it up your ass. I want you to give me a fucking job.
I love you so much. You know what, Joe? I'm actually going to go talk to both of the directors of the films I'm doing in the next 6 months. I'm serious. I'm actually serious. From your lips to your bank account, okay?
I love you, kid.
I love you so much, Joe. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
That episode is so much fun. There are so many retellable stories.
Yeah, he's so I'm glad we picked Joey Pants of all actors to do this episode, because there are a lot of actors we probably could have spoken to about this, but he's a real character actor and he's been on a million sets, but somehow still, as much as he's a famous person, doesn't feel like, you know, A-list celebrity only in it for being on magazines. Like, he's a real actor's actor. And it was fascinating listening to his life stories, and he's obviously hilarious. But
first of all, he's so talented. I mean, he really does inhabit every single role you put him into.
Yeah.
And he's also someone who like brings it. Every time he's on camera, he's bringing something extra. You know, you love to watch him. But I love also hearing about his resourcefulness as an actor and as a networker. I love the story of selling rat shit. And that his agent was like, you're selling rat shit, Stanley Tucci's selling rat shit. Why is your rat shit better? And I was like, oh my God, it's just a business like anything else. You know, they're salesmen.
I'm curious because I have roles that he's been in that are like iconic to me. For me, it's The Sopranos.
Your favorites.
My favorite
Ralph.
is
Ralph Cifaretto.
Oh my God. I love him so much. I think that show is so perfect, but he was so incredible in it. So I'm curious what of all the movies sticks out for you.
Well, obviously he played Bob Keane in La Bamba, which was Richie Valens' manager.
Right.
And I was, you know, present on set. So I sort of saw that happening. And he was kind of an earnest guy on that with like a good whip smart sense of humor, but he wasn't like the cut up in that film. You know what I mean? He was sort of like the downtrodden manager who was just trying to get his guy on the plane kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't till later that I learned he had like such an incredible sense of humor. So I love his role in Midnight Run.
The best.
So good. I think he's so genius.
Yeah.
You know, Memento, and Matrix, he's the bad guy. He actually is the bad guy, but he's like got such a great heart. I just think that's great acting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, love that Joey Pants. It's the holiday season right now, Vanessa.
It is.
And it's time to fill your cart with some hoodies, bags, crew necks.
Yeah.
That's all we have on offer.
That's all we have. Those two things in a variety of designs.
I will say, loyal listeners, tonight is our annual tree lighting party. We have our offices in Rock Center.
Yeah.
And so we always get the perfect view onto the tree lighting. And what a little behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know is that most of the musical performances are pre-recorded. So there's only a very few that happen live on the night. And it's also a really, really cold night.
It's fun because we'll be in the office and all of a sudden you're just hearing Mariah Carey at like 3 p.m.
Always.
And I run to the window. And I'm like, what song is she going to sing this year?
Yeah, let's guess. Let's do a big guess. Anyways, such a fun time of year. It's been so good to see people in person.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, get your sweatshirts, you guys. Go on staygoldfeatures.com.
Don't
hit
forget
the merch tab.
Yep.
And fill up your carts and your stockings and put things under your tree.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. That's so important for us, you guys. All right. Love you. It's been a great year.
Have a good holiday season, everyone.
Okay. Stay gold.
Stay gold.